Webster defines crunch time as a critical moment or period, like the end of a game, when decisive action is needed. Every sports fan knows this time in the game. Your palms sweat just a little more, your heart races just a little bit faster, and you live and die with every play until the final seconds tick off the clock and you're either celebrating a victory or disappointed by the defeat. The team at Crunch Time Sports Advantage Network understands just how critical these moments are. For us, it begins as soon as the next set of games are on the board. We evaluate the opening lines and any breaking news throughout the week. We cover each game inside and out, whether it's from inside the locker room to a huddle down on the field, the court, or the ice. We take you inside the meeting room with scouts, coaches, and executives. We have our fingers on the pulse of all the sports that we cover: the National Hockey League, NBA, college basketball, college football, and the National Football League. We are the Crunch Time Sports Advantage Network, and we're here to help you find your sports advantage. After all the data has been crunched, we then turn it over to Kenneth for the best analysis around. His unique perspective in both understanding the data and how it applies to the game and how you win is the Crunch Time Sports Advantage. Are you ready? The Crunch Time Jet is fueled and ready for takeoff, and the Crunch Time Express is about to leave the station. Your VIP pass has been approved, so all aboard.
Welcome to the SEC Conference Call, your ultimate guide to one of the nation's best basketball conferences. This show is your courtside seats for all of the great action. We will spotlight the players to watch, take you inside the huddle with the coach's playbook, and deliver the expert analysis you've come to expect from us here at the Crunch Time Sports Advantage Network. We're thrilled to cover the heart-pounding action of this incredible conference. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at CrunchTimeVIP. And don't forget to visit our website at crunchtimesportsadvantage.com for all of our fantastic blogs and to learn how you can join the Crunch Time Express with one of our handicapping packages. Whether you're looking for an edge in sports wagering or just want more insights, we've got you covered. 16 teams, one conference, infinite excitement. The SEC has been the stage for legendary players, iconic coaches, and unforgettable rivalries. This is where passion meets competition and championship dreams are forged. Welcome to the SEC Conference Call. And now let's head to the studio with our host, Jessica, and our founder and senior analyst, Kenneth.
Welcome back to the SEC Conference Call. Another week, another round of intense SEC basketball showdowns, and we're inching closer to March Madness. Let's take a look at this weekend's loaded slate of matchups. First up, Alabama heads to Fayetteville to take on Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena. Can the Razorbacks find their rhythm and take down the Crimson Tide, or will Alabama continue its push for SEC dominance? In our game of the week, we are looking live at Neville Arena. The Florida Gators visit the Auburn Tigers in a high-stakes SEC battle. Can Florida secure a signature road win, or will Auburn continue to dominate at home? The Mississippi State Bulldogs travel to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs at Stegeman Coliseum. A battle of the Bulldogs who will come out on top. One of the marquee matchups of the weekend takes us to Rupp Arena, where the Kentucky Wildcats host the South Carolina Gamecocks. Can South Carolina pull off a massive upset, or will Kentucky's home court advantage be too much to overcome? In Baton Rouge, LSU looks to get back on track as they host Ole Miss at Pete Maravich Assembly Center. Both teams are fighting for better positioning in the SEC. Who takes a critical step forward? In Mizzou Arena, the Missouri Tigers welcome the Aggies in a crucial conference showdown. With both teams looking to build momentum, expect a physical battle in Columbia. The Tennessee Volunteers hit the road to face Oklahoma at Lloyd Noble Center in a key non-conference matchup. Can the Vols defense stifle the Sooners, or will Oklahoma protect its home floor? And finally, the Texas Longhorns head to Memorial Gymnasium to take on Vanderbilt. The Commodores are looking for a big home win. Can they pull off the upset against Texas? With high-stakes matchups, rivalries, and teams fighting for SEC supremacy, this week's action is must-watch basketball. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride in the SEC.
And ladies, fantastic job as always, setting the stage for me to come in and just hopefully get this thing hammered out. So we got 8 fantastic games lined up on the slate this weekend. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. And let's get started with this first matchup because this is one I'm really excited about. The Texas A&M Aggies head up to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers. Folks, this team has been playing fantastic basketball, so let's get into the matchup here. Let's start with the visiting Texas A&M Aggies as this showcase showdown begins with the Aggies in a 17-5 record, 6-3 in conference play. The Aggies come in as our 19th power ranked team with a really good strength of schedule, top 10 as a matter of fact, winning their last 2 conference games. Folks, this team has played 15 quality opponents, 10-5 in those matchups. Head coach Buzz Williams knows how to get his team ready for March, and as that calendar now flips to February, this team is starting to kind of take shape there in Aggie land. Their opponents, the Missouri Tigers. And make no mistake, this team has been fantastic here down the stretch. They come in with the 17-5. 17-5 record, 6-3 in conference. They come in as our 26th power ranked team. Not as strong of a strength of schedule as the Aggies have faced. Did lose their last contest earlier this week. This team has faced 11 quality opponents, going 6-5 in those contests. Head coach Dennis Gates has done a fantastic job. Let's go ahead and get straight into the matchup here. Folks, Texas A&M in conference play, and that's really where I'm starting to hone my numbers in at. I'm not looking at what they've done throughout the season, but really focusing in on what they're doing in conference play. This team is averaging about 70.5 points per game. That's 11th best in the conference for the Aggies. When we take a look at what they're allowing, 70.5. This is the 3rd best scoring defense in the Southeastern Conference. When we take a look at Missouri, this team likes to put the ball in the basket and does it at a very high efficiency rate, averaging almost 79 points per game in conference. That's 5th best in the conference. Their defense, not too shabby either, 72.4 points per game allowed, about the middle of the pack to the conference in 7th. I'm going to give an edge to Missouri in their superior offensive firepower, but make no mistake, Texas A&M, one of the best defenses in this conference. Let's take a look at how these teams are shooting from the field and from behind the arc. Texas A&M in conference play, 41.6% from the field. That's only 11th best. Now, a little bit better from behind that 3-point line, shooting in conference play, 33.5%, 8th best. Now, this team really struggles at the foul line, only 68.5%. Got to shoot better, especially when you're talking about trying to get a big-time road win. Let's take a look at Missouri, just in conference only, once again, 44.5% from the field, 7th best in the conference, and then from behind the arc, almost 40% from the 3-point line. That is the 2nd best 3-point field goal percentage shooting in the entire Southeastern Conference. They're just a little bit better from the foul line, shooting at about 71.5%. So Missouri, significant edge as they're more efficient in offense, especially from deep, where they rank 2nd in the SEC, as I mentioned. As far as rebounding, I'm just going to take a look here at who has the advantage from an overall standpoint. Going to give A&M the edge because they control the boards at an elite level, which could limit Missouri's second chance opportunities. So for Missouri, you're going to have to crash the offensive boards, and the same with the defensive boards. You can't be leaking out early trying to get a fast break. Got to make sure you secure that rebounding first before you try to get out in transition. Hey, let's take a look at the players to watch here in this matchup. Let's start with the Aggies. Love this young man, Mr. Phelps, 17 points per game. Really like that, shooting 30% from behind that 3-point line. For Payne comes in averaging about 11 points per game in conference, shooting a whopping 67% from the field. Also does a really good job of getting to the foul line, shooting about 5.5 free throw attempts per contest. And then Wade Taylor the fourth, 13.5 points per game, knocks down about 2.5 3-point shots per game, shooting 35% from the 3-point line in conference. As far as Missouri, let's take a look at Tamir Bates, 15 points per game, shooting 52% from the field, also knocking down 2 threes per contest. Caleb Grills, 13 points per game, also shooting about 53% from the field. He's knocking down 3 3-point shots per game. And then Mark Mitchell, 10 points per game, only shooting 37.5% from the field. So you want to make sure that you don't allow him to go off in this ball game if you're Texas A&M. No significant injuries as we got the injury report not too long ago. So that's going to be something to key on in this contest. All right, let's go ahead and move to our next matchup, and that will be the Tennessee Volunteers, coming off a very impressive win earlier this week. They head to Norman, Oklahoma in the Lloyd Noble Center as they will be visiting the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma welcomes in a team that's vying for a number 1 seed here in just a few weeks when those brackets start to come out. Tennessee comes into this matchup 19-4, 6-4 in conference play. They are still our 6th power ranked team in the nation. 2-game winning streak. Folks, this team has played 13 quality opponents, 9-4 in those contests. Rick Barnes, a defensive wizard. And this team absolutely has been playing lights out on the defensive end. Let's take a look at Oklahoma, 16-6, but 3-6 in conference play. Still strong power ranking for us when we look at Oklahoma, 35th in our power rankings out of 364 teams, I should add. Quality opponents, Oklahoma is 5-6 against quality opponents. Porter Moser, head coach there for Oklahoma, doing a really solid job here. Let's take a look at Tennessee. We talked about their struggles on the offensive end, only averaging about 67 points per game, 14th in the Southeastern Conference. This team does a fantastic job on the defensive end, only allowing 62.5 points per game in conference play, the best scoring defense in the conference for Oklahoma. In conference play, they're averaging about 76 points per game. That is 6th best in the conference, but this team is absolutely putrid on the defensive end, allowing 78 points per game, 13th in the conference. Going to give an edge here to the Tennessee Volunteers as they are an elite defensive team, could look to limit that Oklahoma scoring offense. Let's take a look at the field goal percentage. Now, make no mistake, Tennessee, the worst field goal percentage team in the Southeastern Conference, 38.7%. From 3-point line, now they do shoot a little bit better in conference play, 34.4%. That is 7th best in the conference. And here's one of their biggest strengths for Tennessee, 75% from the free throw line as a team for Oklahoma. 2nd best field goal percentage team in the conference, 47.5%. They also do a great job from behind the 3-point line as well, 36%, 4th best in the conference. And this team is absolutely phenomenal at the free throw line. They are shooting 80% as a team. I'm going to give an edge to Boomer Sooner here for their free throw shooting ability, but make no mistake, both teams do a really good job there. Now, let's take a look at the rebounding here because I think this is going to be one of the biggest keys to this ball game. Tennessee, fantastic job of hitting the offensive boards, defensive boards as well as, let's see, Tennessee, 37% offensive rebounding percentage. That is second best in the Southeastern Conference, fourth best in defensive rebounding percentage. For Oklahoma, this team does not do a great job of hitting the offensive boards, only 27.6% offensive rebounding percentage. That's 10th best in the conference. They do a fantastic job on the defensive boards, 73.6% defensive rebounding, third best in the conference. Going to give a slight edge to Tennessee because they have the better offensive rebounding percentage. That's going to limit Oklahoma's second chance opportunities because of how well Tennessee does on the defensive glass. Also going to give Tennessee a few more opportunities to get some of those kick out threes in this contest. Players to watch, you know the names for Tennessee. Chaz Lanier, almost 15 points per game, knocking down almost three 3-point shots per game. We got Double Z. He's back in the lineup, 14 points per game. He likes to get to the foul line, averaging about 4 free throw attempts per game. He's shooting 92% from the foul line, so you can see why he wants to get to that foul line as often as possible. And then Igor Milicic, 11 points, 8 rebounds per game, shooting almost 48% from the field. Taking a look at the leaders for Oklahoma, Jalen Moore, 18 points per game, doing that on 57% shooting from the field. He also gets to the foul line about 5 times per game. Jeremiah Fears, almost 13 points per game, shooting 80% from the free throw line. That's why he likes to get there about 5 times per game. And then Bryson Gooden, 10.5 points per game, knocking down almost 2.5 3-point shots per game. Now, do have a big injury note in this ball game as Oklahoma, Jeremiah Fields, questionable with an undisclosed injury. Not sure if he's going to be able to go, and if he is, how effective will he be in this contest? That's going to be something to keep an eye on. So, final thoughts on this ball game. Can Oklahoma's offense break through Tennessee's elite defense, or will the Vols grind out another road victory? And folks, you are looking live into my backyard here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, and we're going to head up I-65. We're going to take a quick trip across West End Boulevard, and we're going to park ourselves right there at Memorial Gymnasium, home of the Vanderbilt Commodores, as they welcome in the Texas Longhorns for this big SEC matchup. The Longhorns come into this contest 15-8, 4-6 in Southeastern Conference play, but still 27th in our power rankings. Against quality opponents, a little bit of a struggle there for Texas, as they're only 3-8 against quality opponents. Rodney Terry, first year in this conference, finding the road to be just a little bit more challenging coming out of the Big 12. Now, let's take a look at the Commodores, 16-6, 4-5 in conference play. Our 49th power ranked team, and Vandy comes into this game on a 2-game losing streak. They've also struggled against quality opponents, only 2-6 on the season there. So this team needs to start stacking wins if they have any hopes of making the tournament. Let's take a look at the scoring output in conference play only once again. Texas comes in averaging about 73 points per game. That's 9th best in the conference. Their defense also a struggle, allowing 73 points per game, 10th best in the conference. The Commodores also a struggle on the offensive side of the glass, side of the court, I should say, 71 points per game. That's 10th best in the conference. And then their scoring defense, 70, almost 78 points per game allowed. That's 12th best. So I'm going to give a slight edge to Texas as they are a little bit stronger on defense, but Vandy has a slightly better offense. This game could absolutely come down to execution late in this contest. Let's take a look at the shooting efficiency here for both teams in conference play only. From the field, Texas shooting about 43.3% from the field, 8th best in the conference. 3-point shooting, this team absolutely struggles from behind the arc. Less than 31% from the 3-point line. That's 11th best in the conference. Do a fantastic job of shooting those free throws, though. 75% there for the Longhorns. As for the Commodores, they're shooting from the field 41.5%. That's 12th best in the conference. These from deep, they're shooting about 32% from the 3-point line. That's 10th best in the conference. Once again, I'm going to give a slight edge. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give the free throw shooting here. Vandy does shoot 74% from the free throw line. Texas has a little bit better shooting efficiency overall, but both teams struggle from deep in conference play. Let's take a look at the rebounding edge here. And as I look these over really quickly, I'm going to give a slight edge to the Longhorns. Their defense rebounding 72%, 5th best in the conference, just a little bit better than Vandy's defense rebounding percentage at 71%, 7th best in the country, in the conference, I should say. So overall rebounding, when I look at it, who has the advantage in that particular breakdown? Texas has a clear defensive advantage, especially when it comes to hitting the defensive glass. Let's take a look at the scoring leaders for both teams. Coming in for Texas, their leading scorer is Trey Johnson, almost 19 points per game, gets to the foul line about 5 times per game. And the reason I keep highlighting this is because of how well these players are shooting from the foul line. 90% free throw shooters. So late game situations, trying to get into the bonus, look for Trey Johnson to be extremely aggressive. They're going to the basket. Arthur Kamala, 13 points per game, almost 8 rebounds per game. And then Jordan Pope, 11 points per game. Let's take a look at the injury report for Texas. Trayvon Mark, he's going to be out for this game with an undisclosed injury. We'll see how that affects the Longhorns as far as their depth goes in this contest. As far as the scoring leaders for the Commodores, Jason Edwards, almost 16 points per game, likes to get to the foul line about 5 times per game. Reason why? Because he's shooting 83% from the foul line. AJ Hoggard, 11 points per game, comes in almost 5 assists per game, also shooting about 75% from the free throw line. And then finally, Devin McLaughlin, 11 points, 7 rebounds per game, shooting about 55% from the field. Look for Vandy to try to feed that big fella down low, get him some easy touches or some easy putbacks in this contest. No injuries to report for the Commodores. I think this is going to be a very close contest here in Music City. Going to be a fun one to watch coming up on Saturday for sure. Our next matchup, we head down to Athens, Georgia, as the Mississippi Bulldogs will face off against the Georgia Bulldogs in this matchup. Two teams that have really kind of been struggling here. Let's take a look at the profile for Mississippi State. They come into this contest 16-6, 4-5 in conference play, still our 30th power ranked team in all of college basketball. Mississippi State, as I mentioned, comes in with a 2-game losing streak, and this team has actually been solid against quality opponents. 6-5 is their record against quality opponents. Head coach Chris Johns doing a really solid job there in Start Vegas. The Georgia Bulldogs come into this contest 16-7, 4-6 in conference play. Still, folks, remains our 44th power ranked team. Did win their last contest, but this team has absolutely struggled against quality opponents, going 3-7 so far on the season. Head coach Mike White needs to find a little bit more consistency for this Georgia Bulldogs ball club. Let's take a look at the scoring efficiency numbers for both teams in conference play. Let's start with Mississippi State. They're averaging about 73 points per game in conference play. That's good for 8th best. Defensively has been a problem there for Mississippi State, allowing 75 points per game in conference play, 11th best in the conference. When I take a look at the Georgia Bulldogs, scoring has been a huge problem for this team. Only 66.5 points per game in conference play, 15th in the conference. Now, they do a fantastic job on the defensive end, allowing 69 points per game. That's the second best scoring defense in the conference. Going to give a slight edge here to Mississippi State. Has the superior offense in this matchup, but Georgia has the much better defense, as I mentioned. Let's take a look at some shooting efficiency numbers here in conference play. Mississippi State is shooting about 42% from the field. That is 10th best in the conference. Cannot knock down a 3-point shot in conference play for anything. 28% from the 3-point line. Next to last in the conference. This team also struggles from the free throw line. 69% free throw shooting team. That is a huge problem. As far as Georgia, shooting from the field about 41% in conference play. 13th, another team that can not knock down a 3-point shot either. About 29% from the 3-point line in conference play. 14th best in the conference. They shoot about 71% from the free throw line. So neither team is particularly efficient from the field. Mississippi State struggles from the 3-point line. Could be a big concern in this ball game, especially because they're on the road in this contest. Just taking a look over at some of the rebounding stats. Georgia is one of the best defenses in the Southeastern Conference. Their ability to really not allow their opponents to shoot particularly well from the field could be a big advantage here for the Bulldogs if they're able to get any kind of consistency on the offensive end. Let's take a look at the leading scorers here for both teams, starting with Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard comes in averaging about 18 points per game, getting to the foul line about 4 times per game, shooting 87% from the free throw line, also knocks down about 3 3-pointers per game. Keyshawn Murphy, 12 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and then Claudell Harris Jr., 10 points per game for Mississippi State. Take a look at the Georgia Bulldog. Asia Newell, 15 points per game. 4 free throw attempts per game. Shoots about 83% from that free throw line. Silas, got to get a big game out of SD here. 9 points per game, almost 3.5 rebounds per game. Gonna need him probably to go for 12 and 5 in this contest. And then Blue Cane, about 8.5 points per game. He's going to have to find a way to get into double figures against this Mississippi State team here, just to give them another potential score in this ball game. Taking a look at the injury report here, I'm not seeing any significant injuries to make you aware of for either team. I think this is going to be another very closely contested ball game. coming up on Saturday. Just because I missed that music a little bit, I thought I would throw it in here just a little bit. Um, you are looking live at one of the most electric arenas in all of the Southeastern Conference. Pete Maravich of Assembly Center. They're on the campus of LSU in beautiful Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They're going to welcome in the Ole Miss Rebels. And folks, this is a game that both teams absolutely desperately need to win coming up this weekend. Let's start with the team profiles here for the visiting team, Ole Miss. Ole Miss comes into this game 17-6 overall, 6-4 in conference play. 22nd in our power rankings here, did win their last contest, and against quality opponents. Chris Beard, head coach for Ole Miss, in 14 games this year against quality opponents, Ole Miss is 8-6. Still looking to kind of secure their place as one of the teams that's going to get a bid out of this conference. Let's take a look at LSU, 12-10, folks, 1-8 in conference play. 76th power ranked team. This team in LSU is on a 5-game losing streak, and against quality opponents, this team has really suffered and struggled. 3-10 there is LSU. Let's take a look at the scoring and efficiency numbers here, as Ole Miss comes in averaging about 74 points per game in conference play. That's good for 7th. This team absolutely does major work on the defensive end, only allowing 71 points per game. That is 4th best in the conference. As far as LSU goes, you can imagine where I'm going to start with the struggles. They really struggle scoring the ball. 68 points per game, 13th best in the SEC. Scoring defense, one of the worst. Almost 79 points per game allowed, 14th best in the conference. Ole Miss is the more balanced team on both ends of the court. LSU struggles significantly, ranking last in the SEC in points allowed per game. Cannot emphasize that enough. Let's take a look at the field goal percentage shooting here. Ole Miss shoots from the field about 45% and about 30. Oh, let's go ahead and round it to 35% from the 3-point line. That is good for 6th best in the conference. This team does a really good job at the free throw line, shooting about 73%. As far as LSU goes, this team struggles from the field in conference play, about 42.5% from the field, 9th best in the conference, cannot knock down a 3-point shot at all. 28%. That is 16th in this conference. And if I'm saying 16th, that means they're dead last in that category. Now, LSU does do a fantastic job of shooting free throws, 75.5%. So LSU has got to find a way to get into the double bonus and really take advantage of being able to knock down shots from the free throw line, since they can't knock down the 3. Now, Ole Miss has a clear advantage from deep with their 3-point shooting, comparing that to how much LSU struggles there. Just taking a look at the rebounding edge, neither team excels on the glass, but Ole Miss has a better defensive efficiency than LSU. So that's going to be something that will definitely come into play here. Leading scores for Ole Miss, Sean Padula comes in averaging about 15 points per game, knocks down about a little over 2 made 3-point shots per game, shooting about 37% from 3-point line. Malik Dia, 13.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game. Gonna need him to probably go for a double-double in this contest. And then when I look at the injury report, Matthew Morrell is probable for this game for Ole Miss. Undisclosed injury. Gonna try to give it a go. We'll know more about his situation during the pregame warm-ups. For LSU, Cameron Carter, 17 points per game, gets to the foul line about 5 times per game, shooting about 86% from the free throw line. Jordan Sears, 12.5 points per game, needs to get to the free throw line a little bit more, only about 3.5 free throw attempts. And the reason why I want him to get to the line more is because he shoots 94% from the free throw line. So need to get a little bit more aggressive there, Jordan. No major injury concerns for LSU. The key for LSU in this ball game is, can they find a way to get to that 75-point plateau? You get to 75 in this contest, you give yourself a really good chance of winning this contest. LSU, anything less than that, going to be a very, very long road in this contest. And folks, you are looking live at Rupp Arena, home of the Kentucky Wildcats. They will be playing host to the South Carolina Gamecocks in a ball game that is very important to the Kentucky Wildcats. Let's start with the team profile in South Carolina, as they are 10-12 on the season. Folks, winless in conference play in 9 contests, 78th overall power ranking. Folks, this team has currently on a 9-game losing streak, 1-11 against quality opponents. Lamont Parrish, his team has absolutely struggled once conference play began. Mark Pope, head coach of Kentucky, leads his team to a 15-7 record, 4-5 in conference play. Still our 20th power ranked team. They also entered this contest on a 2-game losing streak against quality opponents. 14 games, they're 7 up, 7 down on the season thus far. Let's take a look at South Carolina's scoring and efficiency numbers. Folks, you're going to hear a lot of bad numbers on the offensive end here. 62 points per game is what this team is scoring in conference play in South Carolina, dead last. As far as their scoring defense, almost 73 points per game allowed. That puts them about in the middle of the pack, or just a little bit below the middle of the pack there in conference play. As far as Kentucky likes to get up and down the court, averaging almost 86 points per game in conference play, second to only Alabama. Now, their defense, dead last in the conference, allowing 86.5 points per game. Going to give the edge here to Kentucky, as their offense is one of the best in the country, while South Carolina ranks last in the SEC in scoring. Force the field goal shooting efficiency numbers. From the field in conference play, South Carolina shoots about 40% from the field, 14th in the conference, and then from 3-point line, 29.4%, 13th in the conference. Solid job from the free throw line, but could be better, shooting about 69.5% from the free throw line. Sports Kentucky in conference go, this is the best field goal percentage team in the conference, 50.5% from the field, number 1 in the conference. And then from the three-point line, almost 43% from behind the arc. They are also the best three-point shooting team in the conference. Free throw shooting, 72.5%, edge to Kentucky in all of these metrics. As far as the rebounding edge goes, I'm looking here over the numbers. The rebounding is close, but Kentucky's defensive rebounding gives them a slight advantage in this contest. Players to watch for South Carolina. Colin Murray Bulls, 14 points per game, shooting 53% from the field, 8 rebounds per game. Jamari Thomas, 15 points per game. And then Zachariah Davis, 11 points per game, about 4.5 rebounds per contest. They're going to have to get big-time production out of all three of these young men coming up on Saturday, especially on the road in Rupp. Looking over their injury report really quickly here, see no significant injuries there for the Gamecocks. Now, for Kentucky, Jackson Robinson, 16 points per game, knocking down almost 4 3-point shots per contest. The big fella in the middle, Double O, 16 points per game. Want to see his rebounding start to pick up a little bit more as we get into tournament play. And then Amari Williams, 11 points per game, 10 rebounds per game. Love seeing that double-double out of that young fella. And the reason why I mentioned Double O's rebounding, only 6 rebounds per game. You want to see him get down and really kind of hit the boards just a little bit more. Now, injury notes. And we got a couple of significant ones here for Kentucky. Jackson Robinson, as I mentioned, he's questionable with an undisclosed injury. And then also Lamont Butler popped up late on our injury report notes here. He's questionable with a shoulder injury. Folks, as I mentioned, it's going to come down, can South Carolina keep Kentucky from hitting 75 points? I think if Kentucky is able to get over that 75-point mark, not only do they win this game, but they probably cover this game quite easily as South Carolina really struggles on the offensive side of the boards. Ladies, go ahead and crank that up for me because we got 2 more matchups to go, and it's time to step up into our co-games of the week. Folks, you are looking live at Bud Walton Arena there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Alabama Crimson Tide looking to lock up one of those 4 number 1 seeds when we get to March Selection Sunday. They're taking on a much more improved Arkansas Razorbacks team. Said that Coach Cal needed to get this offense going in the last 2 contests. They have absolutely done that. Let's get to this fantastic matchup as this is our co-game of the week. The Alabama Crimson Tide, folks, let's go down their resume. 19 wins, 3 losses, 8-1 in the Southeastern Conference. This team is our 4th power-ranked team in the nation. Alabama's currently on a 5-game winning streak. And against quality opponents, head coach Nate Oates knows how to close the deal. 12-3 versus quality opponents. Let's take a look at a surging Arkansas Razorback team. 14-8 overall, 3-6 in conference play, 46 in our power rankings. I did mention they were on that 2-game winning streak. Went to Rupp, and I think something kind of ignited in this ball club. Now, against quality opponents, 4-7, but here's the key. You play in the Southeastern Conference, you have an opportunity to get some big-time wins. Head coach John Calipari, if you can get this win on Saturday, you can pretty much lock yourself a ticket into the big dance. Let's take a look at the scoring and efficiency numbers for both of these ball clubs. Folks, you're going to hear a 1 behind this Alabama team. the best team, not only in the nation in scoring, the best team in the Southeastern Conference. In conference play alone, this team is still averaging 89 points per game. Now, defensively, a lot to be desired there because they give up 82 points per game. That's next to last in the conference. As far as Arkansas, I mentioned this team struggles on the offensive end, only 69 points per game in conference play. Expect that number to go up against this Alabama defense because Alabama will give you some cheap points there on offense if you're willing to take them, Arkansas. Now, Arkansas Razorback defense allows 73 points per game. That is 8th best in the conference. Alabama's high-powered offense leads the nation in scoring, but they will also give up a ton of points, as I mentioned. Arkansas needs to slow this game down to compete. I mentioned this a few weeks ago when Alabama lost at home to Ole Miss. It's because Ole Miss dictated the pace of that contest, really kind of threw Alabama's rhythm offline. If you want to make the mistake of trying to run with the tide, Arkansas, you will be grilled and barbecued there in Bud Walton Arena. Don't try to run with thoroughbreds when you ain't got the same kind of horsepower. Let's take a look at the shooting efficiency here for both teams in conference play. Alabama shooting a whopping 47% from the field in conference play. That's third best in the conference. And this team has gotten better knocking down the three-point shot. That's going to be a problem there for any opponent they face because Alabama either wants to finish at the rim or shooting behind the three-point line or getting to the free throw line. They don't like taking those mid-range shots, so it's either knocking it down from three, getting it to the rim, or getting to the foul line. If this team is going to shoot 35% from the three-point line, folks, they're going to put a lot of teams in body bags. This team has also picked up their free throw shooting there in Alabama, shooting now about 71% from the free throw line. Something to keep in mind as we get closer to tournament play. For Arkansas, this team is shooting about 40% from the field, next to last in the conference. And then their three-point shooting has been a struggle, shooting 30% from the three-point line. That is 12th best in the conference. Now, Arkansas shoots about 73% from the foul line. So edge here to Alabama as they shoot at a much more efficient clip, especially inside of the arc. Arkansas struggles from deep, which could be an issue keeping up that pace with Alabama because Alabama is going to score. Your challenge, Arkansas, is to limit the amount of possessions in this ball game and take care of the ball. As I look at the rebounding edge, huge advantage here for Alabama. Alabama, you wouldn't think dominate the boards the way they do, but Alabama is one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the SEC. Arkansas does a little bit better on the defensive glass, but pay attention to that outlining factor. Alabama's able to get those offensive rebounds. Folks, I'm telling you, watching Nate Oates over the past couple of years, it's an immediate kick out, whip that ball around the perimeter 2 times. If you do, you're guaranteed a wide open 3-point shot. If Alabama gets those offensive boards, knocking those down, that takes that Bud Walton Arena crowd out of the game and gets that Alabama high octane offense really, really going here. Let's talk about the scoring leaders for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and that's going to start with Mark Sears, 18 points per game. This young man does a fantastic job of getting to the free throw line, 7 free throw attempts per game, as he loves to drive it and either get that layup or get fouled. And on a lot of times, he's getting that 3-point play. He's also knocking down 38.5% from the 3-point line. Aiden Holloway, young man, has really come on over the last couple of weeks. He's given Alabama now that third legitimate scorer there in that rotation. 14 points per game, shooting about 56% from the field. But folks, here's the craziest number that you're going to hear, shooting 50% from the 3-point line. He has really injected this Alabama offense with another shooter from out behind the three-point line. And then finally, Grant Nelson, 12 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. He also gets to the foul line quite a bit, 4 attempts per game. Looking over the injury list for Alabama, no notable injuries to report. Now let's take a look at Arkansas. AT has got to have a big game here. He comes in averaging about 14 points per game, shooting 50% from the field. Also gets to the line almost 7.5 times per game. DJ Wagner, gonna need a big time performance out of this young man here on Saturday. Comes in averaging about 11.5 points per game, shooting only 37% from the field. Gonna need him to absolutely go nuclear in this ball game. And then Jonell Davis, 11 points per game, does shoot 90% from the free throw line. So gonna need him to be aggressive early and often in this ball game. We know the big injury for Arkansas as Boogie Flan is out for the rest of the season with that hand injury. For Alabama, no significant injuries to note. Can Arkansas pull off the home upset, or will Alabama's elite offense just be a little bit too much to handle for the Razorbacks? And folks, that leaves us one game, and this is a big one. Crank that back up. Folks, you are looking at the jungle. We're not even calling it by its name, the Neville Arena. It is the jungle. And baby, the Auburn Tigers. Folks, this team is absolutely locked up the number 1 overall seed in March Madness. I'll get to their numbers here in just a minute. But this is a big game for the Florida Gators. If Florida can go into the jungle and do something that no team has done this entire season, and that is get a win on that home floor of the Auburn Tigers, Florida Gators still have an outside shot of getting a number 2 seed. And if things play out right, could be in line for still a number 1 overall seed. This Gator team comes into this matchup 19 wins, 3 losses, 6-3 in SEC play, 5th in our power rankings. Folks, against quality opponents, you want to know why they're still in line for a number 1 seed? They're 8-3 against quality opponents. Todd Golden has done a fantastic job there with this team. But when we're talking about fantastic jobs this year, Bruce Pearl should be National Head Coach of the Year. This team is the number 1 power ranked team in the nation. They're also our number 1 power ranked team in this conference. This team is on a 9-game winning streak against quality opponents. Folks, listen to this ridiculous number. 14 games against quality opponents, 13-1. Let's take a look at the scoring breakdown here. In conference play, the Florida Gators come in averaging 79 points per game. That is 4th best in the nation. This team also plays really good defense, only allowing 72 points per game. That is 6th best in the SEC. Now, you want to talk about another team that does a great job of scoring? That is the Auburn Tigers, 82 points per game, 3rd best in the conference. And this team absolutely knows how to be stifling on the defensive side of the ball. 72 points per game is what this team allows in conference play. That is 5th best in the conference. Auburn has the most balanced attack in the Southeastern Conference, excelling in both scoring and defensive efficiency. Florida's offense is strong, but that Auburn defensive ability gives them a slight advantage, especially playing at home. Now, let's take a look at the shooting efficiency here for both teams in conference play. Florida Gators come in shooting about 45% from the field, 5th best in the conference. Do a decent job of shooting from behind the 3-point line, 32% there, 9th best in the conference. Fantastic job at the free throw line, by the way, 71%. Florida, I will always take a look at that number in these breakdowns. Let's take a look at Auburn, 46% from the field, 4th best in the conference. And this team absolutely knocks it down from the 3-point line, 37% in conference play, 3rd best in the conference. They also do a great job of getting to the free throw line and then knocking those shots down 75% from the free throw line. Auburn has an advantage in both field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage shooting, and free throw shooting, making them much more effective in scoring opportunities. When I take a look at the rebounding here now, the Gators, best offensive rebounding team in the conference, 37% there on the offensive boards. Team is also really good on the defensive boards at 71%. That is 8th best in the conference. Auburn offensive rebounding percentage, 33.5% offensive rebounding percentage, 3rd best in the conference. Doesn't hit the defensive boards nearly as well as you would think that they should at 69% defensive rebounding percentage there. Gonna give the edge here to the Gators as I mentioned, best offensive rebounding team in the SEC, but Auburn's overall defense makes them a better team in limiting second chance opportunities. Players to watch in this contest, Walter Clayton Jr., almost 18 points per game, likes to get to the free throw line. Got an injury concern with Elijah Martin. He's going to be questionable for this game, but he comes in averaging about 15 points per game. If he's able to go, that's going to be a huge plus there for the Gators. And then Will Richard, 12 points per game, knocking down 42% of his 3-point shots. And then, folks, probably the National Player of the Year, or certainly the SEC Player of the Year, in Johnny Brome, 18 points per game, gets to the free throw line about 16 times per game. I like to call this young man CBM, Chad Baker Mazzara, 13 points per game, knocks down almost 2 3-point shots per game. Mr. Petford, 12 points per game. Gonna need him to probably get also in the double figures, giving Auburn those 3 elite scores in this contest. No significant injuries to report for the Auburn Tigers. I think this is going to be a very close contest going late. Can Florida pull off the upset, or will Auburn run that winning streak to 10 in a row, giving you that Bo Derek conference record being 10-0? Folks, I think it's going to be a fantastic Saturday, and looking forward to another fantastic weekend of SEC basketball. Folks, this has been the SEC conference call. Turn it back over to our host here.
Thank you for tuning in to the SEC conference call. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and our deep dive into all things SEC basketball. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at CrunchTimeVIP for updates, insights, and more basketball content. And make sure to visit our website at crunchtimesportsadvantage.com for in-depth blogs, game previews, and information about our Crunch Time Express handicapping packages. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the SEC conference call.